lick your wounds, collect your eggs.
Today we're diving into one of the most familiar and misunderstood stories in the Christian tradition, the birth of Jesus in Bethlehem. Every December we picture the same scene, Mary and Joseph traveling to Bethlehem, no room at the inn, and the baby born in a stable surrounded by shepherds. It's warm, it's nostalgic, and it might not be historical. So here's the question, was Jesus actually born in Bethlehem? Or is Bethlehem a theological location chosen by the early Christian storytellers? Let's take a closer look. To understand the debate, you first have to understand why Bethlehem mattered so much. In Jewish tradition, the Messiah was expected to come from the line of King David. And where was David from? Bethlehem. This comes largely from Micah 5:2, which speaks to a future ruler emerging from Bethlehem, a prophecy later interpreted messianically. But you, Bethlehem Ephrathah, though you are small among the clans of Judah, out of you will come for me one who will be ruler over Israel, whose origins are from ancient times. So early Christians had a problem to solve. Jesus was from Nazareth, a tiny rural village in the Galilee, not the city of David. If Jesus is the long-awaited Messiah, connecting him to Bethlehem is powerful and necessary. It signaled, this is the new David. This is the one we've been waiting for. That theological motivation will explain a lot of what we're about to see. Now let's compare the two Gospels that give us birth stories, Matthew and Luke. And here's something most casual readers never realize. Matthew and Luke's stories don't agree, like at all. They share no narrative details except the name Bethlehem. In Matthew, Mary and Joseph already live in Bethlehem. Jesus is born there. There's no census, no travel story. After birth, they flee to Egypt to escape Herod's massacre. When they return, they avoid Judea because Archelaus is ruling, and instead settle in Nazareth. In Matthew's telling, Nazareth is basically a post-Egypt relocation. Luke starts in a completely different place. Mary and Joseph already live in Nazareth. A census requires Joseph to return to his ancestral town, Bethlehem. They travel the 90 miles and Jesus is born. Then, after the purification rituals in Jerusalem, they simply go back to Nazareth. No Egypt, no massacre, no relocation story. If these were two independent memories of a historical birth, you'd expect the broad strokes to line up. Timing, circumstances, movement, but they don't. The only fixed detail is Bethlehem, which raises a historian's bushy eyebrow. Luke's entire Bethlehem story hinges on a worldwide census under Quirinius, but here's the trouble. Historically, that census took place in 6 CE, almost a decade after King Herod's death. But both Matthew and Luke place Jesus' birth during Herod's reign. You can't have Herod and Quirinius at the same time. That would be similar to having Arnold Schwarzenegger being the governor of California while Joe Biden was the president, or Margaret Thatcher being prime minister under King George VI. Then there's more. No Roman census ever required people to travel to ancestral towns, certainly not the towns tied to ancestors from 1,000 years earlier. Rome taxed people where they lived, not where their great-great-great-grandfather was born. This would have ground their economy to a halt, and Rome was no more likely to do this than any modern superpower would be. So historians widely viewed Luke's census as a creative narrative device. Its purpose? To move the Holy Family from Nazareth to Bethlehem, just long enough for Jesus to be born there. You might assume that Bethlehem was common knowledge among early Christians, but the earliest gospel, Mark, doesn't mention Bethlehem at all. Jesus is simply Jesus of Nazareth. And in John, we see people questioning Jesus' messianic credentials because they know he's from Galilee. They say, the Messiah doesn't come from Galilee. Doesn't Scripture say he comes from Bethlehem? Notice something. No one in John says, wait, he was born in Bethlehem. The silence is loud. It suggests that Jesus' birth in Bethlehem was not widespread tradition. When we look at the earliest layers of the Jesus tradition, everything points to Nazareth. He's called Jesus of Nazareth, a geographical title that typically reflects a person's hometown. The earliest followers refer to him as the Nazorian. Archaeology confirms Nazareth existed in the early 1st century. Small, poor, rural, exactly the sort of place you would expect a lower-class Galilean craftsman to come from. There's simply no positive historical evidence for Bethlehem outside of the 2 gospel narratives. So if historical Jesus was almost certainly born in Nazareth, why do Matthew and Luke place him in Bethlehem? Because the early Christian authors were making a theological claim. Jesus is the new David. And the best way to show that is to start his story in David's city. Matthew does this one way. He roots the family in Bethlehem from the beginning. Luke does it another way. He moves the family from Nazareth to Bethlehem temporarily. 2 different solutions, same goal. Their differences actually help historians because they reveal that Bethlehem wasn't a long-standing memory. It was a theological choice. So was Jesus really born in Bethlehem? From a historical perspective, probably not. Nazareth is the far more likely birthplace. But Bethlehem still matters, not because of geography, but because of what early Christians were trying to say about Jesus' identity. And understanding that difference between history and theology helps us appreciate the richness of those ancient stories without forcing them to be something they are not. Thank you for listening, and if you enjoyed this dive into the historical Jesus, make sure to subscribe and share. We've got more deep-cut historical investigations coming your way.